All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of Truth and Reconciliation Week. I am very excited to introduce our guest speaker for today. But first, let me introduce myself. My name is Dan Gibson. I'm the manager of the RBC on campus location, and I work out of the Wilfrid Laurier University. And a little bit about what I do is I help students and youth focus on their financial literacy journey and help them, focus on savings, budgeting, all that fun stuff that you may not be familiar with as you progress in life. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to Rachel Poems George, and I hope I say this right. Kowaltat Annette is an actor, writer, filmmaker, and artist currently in a Wild Bird Trust artist residency, and we're pleased to welcome you to the session. Tell your story, put pen to paper. And I hope you can correct me on how I actually say that correct pronunciation. Over to you.
Thank you so much, Dan. That was a great introduction. And you were close. It's Qualtanot.
Okay.
Close. You said it just a little slow, but yeah. But thank you. So I'm currently just working on a play as well right now with my mentor, Lee Miracle. And I'm also working with a film company called Imagineer. And I'm actually going to write my first feature film. So that is exciting. But I do have a slide presentation for everybody today. And yeah, I'll probably just get started with that. So my name is Rachel George. About the introduction, tell your story. Next slide, please. So why write? Writing is a way to make sense of a world that doesn't make sense. So when I was about 6 years old, there were things I would wonder about, like something like starving children in Africa, or pollution, or garbage, like how there's so much garbage being produced by like the humans on the planet, and where's that garbage going to go? Like a lot of this to me did not make sense. And I just think when you have these kind of thoughts, which are, it's like taking a problem and not keeping those thoughts to yourself, but expressing your thoughts and getting these thoughts out. And writing is a really good way. It's a very comforting way. There's comfort in telling a story, and you can tell a story the way you want to see it. And it's like taking something that you might see as negative, and you could write it any way you want. You can write it either like journalistic or the true way. You can write it like fantasy, like make up a story that helps solve these problems. So there's a lot of comfort in taking something you might not understand and then making it into something like the way you would rather see the world, or like showing other people through your eyes what you see or what you think. And with writing, like why write? It's also a really good way to speak your truth. And it is also a really good form of self-expression. And a lot of art forms, start with an idea. And with writing, it's a really similar concept. Everything just starts with an idea, and then you build upon that idea. And there's so many different forms of writing, but today I'm mostly going to be focusing on, tell your story and storytelling, because storytelling is what really resonated with me from a young age. And there are many ways to tell a story, and writing is one of the ways I like to express myself. and it's very good for healing. Like, why write? It can help heal things within yourself because you're getting out some of your deepest feelings or things you've gone through, and you can share that and you can be relatable to other people. And I put healing, like why write, and I do have healing there because I've been recently working with my writing mentor, and she asked me about some of my pain or painful things I've been through. And with her, we worked through some of those things, some of the pain that I've been through, and we turned that into art, which is actually really, it helped like me get some healing with some of that pain that I've been carrying. So those are some of the reasons why I write. And what's your story? Like, everyone has their story. So within each and every one of you, you have a story or many stories. And, what is your story? Can I have the next slide, please? This is just going to be a video play.
O Great Spirit, give me back the courage of the olden chiefs. Let me wrestle with my surroundings. Let me once again live in harmony with my environment. Let me humbly accept this new culture, and through it, rise up and go on. I shall grasp the instruments of the white man's success, his education, his skills, and with these new tools, I shall build my race into the proudest segment of your society. I shall see our young braves and our chiefs sitting in the house of law and government, ruling and being ruled by the knowledge and freedom of our great land.
So shall we shatter the barriers of isolation. So shall the next 100 years be the greatest and the proudest in the history of our tribes and nations.
So I chose to share this video because that's my great grandfather, Chieftain George, and he's one of like my greatest inspirations of why I write. And he's an Indigenous writer, and the whole speech, like the centennial speech, that was just one clip from it, but the whole video is actually on YouTube, and you can check it out if you want to see the entire speech. But I was just sharing that because he's a great Indigenous writer, and that's where I get a lot of my inspiration from. Can I have the next slide, please? So how to start writing process. So when I'm working with my mentor, I asked her this question, and she just said, just start writing. That's all you need to do. So just set aside some time and just get a pen or on your laptop and just start writing out your thoughts. It may seem silly at first, but she said, honestly, write down anything that comes to your mind and just start just getting it out. Because if you're just going to be waiting and waiting for inspiration, you may tend to put it off. But if you just set aside time and just sit down and start writing. And then she said you can go over it later. So you might just sit there writing and writing, and then you go, what was I even writing? Then you go over it, and then you can actually choose from what, like everything you wrote, you can choose the parts that you want to keep or that you want to work more and like kind of flesh out certain ideas. You can also find inspiration in what you find beautiful. So you can go places that you enjoy. Like I really enjoy the beach, and I might go there and just sit there until I see inspiration or feel inspiration. And you can find inspiration in activities. Like I have a picture of these people dancing. You might, want to go out dancing, having fun, having a good time, and something might happen that will inspire you to write a great poem or a song or a short story. So there's just a lot of different ways on like how to start the process of just getting down and writing something meaningful to yourself. Next slide, please. So writing mentor, I've already mentioned that I have a writing mentor like a few times, and you don't have to have a writing mentor, but I find that it really does help. And the next slide, please. So how to find a writing mentor. A writing mentor can be a friend or family member. It can be a teacher. You can email an author, and you can apply for a grant to work with an established writer. So my mentor is my auntie. She's a family member, the Miracle, and she also is a teacher. She teaches at university. And I did email her and I reached out to her. She is an author. And I asked her if she would mentor me in writing, and she said yes. So once she said yes, I applied to a grant to work on a project with her. So that's kind of like how I went about it. But you could honestly just do something as simple as getting a teacher or a family member to be a writing mentor, or even a friend. You just have like a little writing group, or check in with each other and let each other know, hey, I wrote this, can I bounce back these ideas with you? So a writing mentor can really be anybody you choose. Next slide, please. So inspiration. This is a really key element and really important to be a writer. You have to have, well, I believe it really helps to have a passion and a connection to what you want to write. And I do focus a lot on Indigenous storytelling. So that's kind of what drives me. And that's what inspires me to write is First Nations people's voice and story and truth. So when I sit down to write a screenplay, I think about, and I do a lot of I think about the idea. Let's say it's like murdered and missing women. And then I do a lot of research on that idea, like gearing towards murdered and missing women, because I just have a great passion to share that story and for the voice of those missing women to be heard. So it does help to have great passion behind your inspiration, just to have that connection. So it has meaning. So when you're writing it, there hopefully will be other people who could connect with what you're writing and sharing. But it's always good to have a notebook and a pen on you, just in case an idea pops into your head. And this has happened to me before, where I'd had a good idea and I didn't specifically write down the details of it because I just didn't have pen and paper. And then I get home at night, before I go to bed, I'm thinking, oh my God, I had this great idea. And I could vaguely remember it, but I knew I was missing out on some of the important details that came to me in that moment. So it's always good to have a notebook and a pen, because inspiration can strike at any time. And you can also, a lot of people, find inspiration in nature, in a feeling or emotion, in music, movies, interaction between people or animals. There's just a lot of different ways to be inspired. When you write something down, it's proven that you'll remember it more often. So just writing ideas down, it'll help them stick in your mind. So your writing will flow together easier. And I have my mentor, Lee Miracle. She's a great inspiration to me. And that clip I showed you, the laminate for Confederation, Chief Dame George, very inspiring. But just like ask yourself, like what inspires you? Like what is your passion? What is important to you? What truth can you tell? What voices do you want to be heard? Or what voice is important to you? Next slide, please. So this is a quote. May the stars carry your sadness away. May the flowers fill your heart with beauty. May hope forever wipe away your tears. And above all, may silence make you strong. That's by Chief Dame George. Next slide, please. And there's a picture of him. Next slide, please. So the power of your voice. Relatable content. So you never know who you will reach, and you never know who you'll teach. I do have a picture here of a rally. This is from a Black Lives Matter rally, and there's a lot of great content out there that has to do with Black Lives Matter journalism or poetry or music, and that's relatable to a lot of people, and that's very powerful, and it's sending a very strong message. And that's like, the power of your voice and the scale that you can be reached. Like all these people came together to this rally, and they were sharing music and speeches, and it just goes to show how powerful writing can be and how many people you can reach, and the effects of using your voice, and how using your voice can improve yourself. Because when you go to any kind of event, if you're sharing your writing, or like when I write a screenplay and I see the actors acting it out, that makes me feel better, and it makes me feel heard. And I think like that's a way of using your voice, how that can improve yourself. Next slide, please. You are as beautiful as you are intelligent, and as intelligent as you are strong, and as strong as you are compassionate, and as compassionate as you are courageous. You are going to change this world like the tides of the seven seas. And that is a quote from me to all of you. Next slide. Yeah, and if you want to reach out to me, if you have any questions about writing, like, screenplays, storytelling, plays, poems, poetry, just you can reach out to me on any of these social media platforms. I hope you liked my presentation, and if you have any questions, I think we will be doing a Q&A.
Absolutely amazing. Rachel, thanks so much for sharing. I had a lot of great takeaways. I feel inspired to write all of a sudden too. So mission accomplished. I love the deal of inspiration, and then obviously finding your voice, super important, especially for those that feel like they're introverted, that feel like they can't or just don't have the energy to or don't know how to. I would love to ask you a couple of questions. We don't have any in the chat right now, but first, actually, let me say that Sheena actually mentioned Chief Dan George's vision for Canada has been inspiring me since I was young. So honored to hear you are his descendant. Thank you for sharing his voice with us this morning. A really wonderful comment. We also have a miigwech from Melanie. Temagami First Nation, Bear Island, Ontario. So those are some of the comments in there. Feel free to ask a question, but I'll start us off. Obviously, with the introduction that I gave earlier, you're a film writer, you're a filmmaker, or an actor, a writer. How did you decide to land on writing as your passion with all of those different types of creative outlets?
Yeah, well, being an actor, I was getting auditions for very static, like you can tell they're all just written by guys, most likely Caucasian men. And I started thinking, you know what? Like I was working a lot on indie films with Capilano University, and some of my favorite things were the Indigenous written scripts. And then I worked with Jessie Anthony as an actor, as one of her lead actors in her film. And I thought, you know what? I want to do this. So I signed up and I went to film school after working on that because I thought it'd be more beneficial to write what I want to act in or write stories for Indigenous people or even just stories for women, like just that voice. Because at the time where I was auditioning and stuff, there wasn't like roles that I felt proud to be a part of or that was fun, I guess you can say. So I was really inspired just to be able to share my voice and write whatever I wanted and see that come to life. Like that really excited me. And a switch just flipped on and went, hey, I can write something. And then I'd, audition actors and they'd be excited to like audition for this content as well. So that's kind of just how I made that change over.
Amazing. That's awesome. That actually leads us into our next question. Where did you grow up and when did you start writing?
Okay, so I grew up in North Vancouver, British Columbia. I'm from the Tsleil-Waututh and Squamish Nation, and I really just started writing like right in grade 1. I was, you have creative writing time, like journaling time, and I would write the craziest stories. And ever since grade 1, my teachers are like, Rachel should be a writer. And I'd even write stories about my neighbors. Like my neighbor, he was a hunter, and I got really scared because I walked by and he was gutting a deer. And I wrote a story about him being a mighty hunter who's going to feed the entire village, like in my journal. But yeah, I really started from a young age, but I've mostly just recently started being, as a career-wise, I'm just breaking through right now career-wise as a writer. And I'm really lucky that right now there's a lot of grants and opportunities for Indigenous writers. And I just finished my I went to film school, Indigenous filmmaking program for 2 years. I graduated that. And yeah, this year my writing career has just been taking off.
Amazing. I love that you've acknowledged that there's so many opportunities for Indigenous writers and to be, utilizing that creative mindset. This next question actually comes from a grade 5 student, which I absolutely love. Ava would like to know, what is the biggest challenge? So with every opportunity that comes, there's obviously those big challenges. And what is the biggest challenges that you found you've overcome by writing?
Biggest challenges. So there's one challenges. That's a really good question, because I think there's okay, so something with me, like I guess inequality, like when things don't feel quite fair, or when something in your life happens and it's not like something hurtful happens. I think writing is like medicine. So you can go and you can write, and it's something that helps make you better, and it helps take away that pain. So I think like one of the greatest challenges to overcome is really in any situation in your life, if something happens to you where you're hurt or you feel bullied, it's like medicine to go and you can write about it, and it's almost like it just magically makes you feel better. So I really encourage that if you ever feel bullied or anything, if you feel sad or down, you just set aside some time and find some inspiration and write out a poem or a short story, and I guarantee you'll feel better. Thanks for that question.
Great advice. Absolutely. Find your voice and believe it, and be genuine, authentic, and believe in yourself too, right? The questions are pouring in. There's another great question. This comes from Sheena. And Sheena says that I will be teaching English 100 to students from White Bear First Nation, Cote First Nation, and Kawakatus First Nation, and I hope I'm saying that right, I'm trying, within Treaty 4 territories next semester. What shout outs or advice can you give English 100 students in finding their voice and reading Indigenous?
Reading Indigenous. Well, one of my friends just wrote her first book in the last year, or in the last 2 years. Her name's Helen Knott, and she's definitely an author I would check out. And for English 100, that's a lot of essays. And essays, like if you look at it as a fun way, like choose a topic. Once again, passion is important. So when you're choosing like an essay topic, always choose something that, you just have thousands of ideas about, and then just narrow it down to the top, topics that really that you're passionate about. Because if you're writing something that you're not passionate about, it's not going to be fun for someone to read. Like if you're not having fun writing it, like the teacher who's going to read it is not going to enjoy reading it. So like my advice is, when you're writing something, make sure you do have that passion behind it, and that, just have fun with it.
Absolutely. And that actually segues into our next question, because everybody basically is asking, where do you get your ideas from?
Ideas from my life, or just from like no, a lot of them do actually. I'm in like a phase right now with my screenwriting on decolonization. So I was working on a short film with Whistler International Film Fest Indigenous Mentorship, and it was about murdered and missing women. And that kind of stems from decolonization. And then at film school, one of my projects, I was writing a film about, I'll just say like residential school, because, it was focusing on the parents at that time. So that also stems from decolonization. So I'm really that's been on my mind lately, to get those like ideas out. They're like in there and they're out, but I've also wrote some comedies. And yeah, I would just look to your own life. Like if you're looking for ideas, like just think about a funny experience you've witnessed or have been a part of. And those are really you have to write what you know. So I really believe in that. Like that's one of like the really best pieces of advice I got for like storytelling is like write what you know, because it's going to come across a lot more believable. And that's kind of what people look for, because they're looking to escape into something. And if they can believe in that, and if you know what you're talking about, it really helps.
Great advice. And I want to keep respecting time. I'm going to keep moving on to the next question, but I personally actually want to know this too. You identify as an indigenous person, you're a woman, and you're a writer. How has that impacted, I guess, your voice? And have you had any struggle to think about how is my writing going to make an impact? And what have you done to kind of find your voice since your writing has taken off in the last year or so?
Yeah. I I'm so fortunate at this time where there's just so many opportunities that there hasn't really been much of a struggle with, getting my voice heard like right now. But I feel like the struggle is kind of what I grew up around, like being Indigenous and growing up on a reserve and in a community. There has been struggle there that I feel like many Indigenous people have also had to go through. And because I do have those experiences and I have witnessed people in my community struggle around me, it it's on my mind. It's been on my mind to have that voice heard, and that kind of drives me. Like my struggles, what I witnessed and grew up around, is what drives me to have that voice heard. And I'm just so fortunate that there's such a big platform for that nowadays.
Absolutely. That's awesome. And obviously, you are quite busy with a lot of the activities that you're going on and the research that you're doing. What's something that made you or inspired you to come and do this presentation?
Oh, well, it all started with my friend Jesse Anthony. We went to film school together. Um, and she was the one who inspired me to take the program. And she got me in contact with Mary Lou. And as soon as Mary Lou asked me to speak about writing, I was like 100% on board and to students, because I think that, students are our future. Like, they're so important. And any way I can help out and dedicate a little bit of my time, I was just, yes, 100% yes.
I love that. And that's the true art of networking. And sometimes we think it's not about who you know, it's about who knows you and how that can connect you. I know we've talked about this on a more broader term, but I guess it's more specific too. What advice do you have for high school students who struggle to find a passion to write about? And I guess I will tie into another question. What is your top motivation for writing?
So finding your passion. Um, I think music, like in high school, I find everybody in high school had, their favorite bands. So I think one of the easiest ways to find an inspiration would just be like, I don't know, go on your Spotify or your YouTube or your iTunes. And it can also be like a mirroring thing too, like when you kind of connect with an artist and you are listening to those ideas, it can inspire you to find yourself. Or it's not like being exactly like that artist, but you connect with them and it helps you find who you are. I think for high school students, that would be my best advice on how to, you know, find something you're passionate about. Or if you're the like athletic type, it could be through sports or activities. And for me, I love storytelling, so movies was like really huge for me. Or books, like, you know, like a lot of people read like the whole Lord of the Rings and Harry Potter. Like there's a lot of I'm sure there's like newer books out now, or graphic novels. Like it's endless for high school students. And the second question was what inspires me?
And what is your top motivation for writing? So I guess more of a specific question for you would help motivates you.
What motivates me? Just getting that voice out there. I am super motivated right now writing my first feature film, and I can't really say what it's about right now because of signed a NDA, but I think my top motivation is like getting the voice of Indigenous people heard. So every day I wake up and I'm like, I need to get this Indigenous voice out there. I want, Indigenous voices to be heard. And so that's my top motivation. And I love supporting other voices too, like, environmental voice, like Black Lives Matter, like there's LGBTQ. There's so many other voices that, I just love to support. And being a supporter of those, I also like getting our Indigenous voice out there, and that's really what drives me.
Absolutely. And I think, having your voice and collaborating with other voices obviously strengthens the message of what you're trying to do, but also supporting other people. There's a really good question that came in regarding that, thinking about how you collaborate or the type of content you create or, things that you put out there. Have you ever been afraid or scared or nervous about putting out specific types of content where you're like, I don't know how this is going to react with the, the broader communities?
Yes, every time, even today. Like, there's always that like little bit of like nervousness or fear, because I feel like if you don't have that, like then you have to worry about something. Like I think I've had a few times where I wasn't kind of nervous or scared about something, and it completely went south. So I feel like when I am a little bit scared, I'm like, okay, good. That means I care. That means like I'm in this. But yeah, like definitely, because you write something, you're basically like, well, I feel like I'm sharing my soul. Like I am taking a piece of myself and I'm putting it out there. So I've talked on CBC and other shows about rape culture, and that's something that is scary to talk about because it's kind of one of those subjects or topics where people don't talk about it. And I'm really open and willing to talk about rape culture and ending gaslighting, like help putting a stop to that. So that's something I'm passionate about. But before I do something like that, there is a bit of fear because I know not everyone is going to want to hear it. And like some people have very strong opinions on that subject. But I don't let that stop me, because I think it's more important to speak on those kind of matters to help support, survivors, and to let them know they're not alone. So the benefit outweighs the fear. So when you're scared of something, sometimes that's a good thing. It's a good thing to be scared, but then just take that and turn it into your power and like use your voice.
I think that goes to show, where your passion comes from, where that true, genuine, authentic self comes from. And I love that you share, when you do share something, your nerves, even today, right, are flaring up. And I think it goes to show that real growth happens uncomfortably. So when we think about how am I going to learn and educate and grow, I have to get comfortable being uncomfortable in any way I can, right? And sometimes it's having those hard conversations or writing things that you feel really uncomfortable writing, but it needs to be said. With putting your content out there, and getting inspiration from social media, YouTube, everywhere. How do you utilize your social platforms? And I love this question because I am a big social media person myself. But how do you, as a writer, use your social network, to I guess bring your storytelling to life, and to put your words out there?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. Now that I'm finished film school, I'm really starting to try to work on my social media platforms, like a little bit, like putting more effort into them, because I do actually get a lot of my work, funnily enough, like it's actually pretty funny, through Facebook. Um, a lot of people will inbox me on Facebook, or they'll tag me in a post of people looking for screenwriters or photographers, filmmakers, and yeah, it's actually pretty important to have like a professional persona on social media in that way, because a lot of my and how I reached out to my mentor was like through social media. So and it's just so fast, it's so quick, it's so instant, and it's like if you need something, make a post, and then you'll get lots of likes, or get lots of tags, you'll get like people commenting and tagging people that relate to that. So I think social media is like pretty important when it comes to writing and opportunities, and just like instantly like grabbing those opportunities.
Yeah, and again, it goes back to you putting yourself out there, and of course getting a conversation and utilizing the different platforms for your unique audiences, right? The audience you have on TikTok versus Instagram or Facebook are totally different. That being said, I guess this will be our last question just because of time. But I guess going back to putting yourself out there, getting a little uncomfortable, what is something that you tend to do to manage or calm your nerves when you are sharing with your networks and putting your content out there?
Oh wow, there's a lot, like well, like number one, like meditation is like key. I have a meditation app, so there's a few good ones out there. I use Insight Timer, but there's also one called Calm. That's one my sister uses. And I have my medicines, like I have my lavender like right off to the side here, and I have some sage, and I have like my abalone dish. So it's always good to like cleanse yourself, and nice warm relaxing baths with like candles and bath salts helps as well, or going for nice long walks, like yoga, stretching, watching comedies, helps get out a lot of angst, and just being with friends and family. So, oh, and my puppy, I love my
You forgot to mention your puppy.
my puppy. Yeah, she's a little bundle of joy.
That's amazing. That is all the time we have. Rachel, it was so nice to introduce you and for you to share your experiences and obviously to meet you. I want to thank everybody, all the teachers and the students on the call today for participating. Truth and reconciliation is super important, and also to realize that everybody reconciles different. It's not a one journey fits all. Everybody goes through their own pace. And I hope this creative outlet from Rachel has helped inspire you, especially for those of you that want to get writing, filmmaking, whatever. If you have an idea, run with it. Thank you so much to everybody. And that is it for today.